Another bad thing that people do is, hey, what's going on? Megan here. Alright, top 10 nucleus overload mistakes. The most common mistakes that I see all the time. I had to switch up the tier list, by the way. So we're going to go from extremely bad, very bad, bad, not that bad, and no difference. The top 10 most common mistakes, and let's see where they rank. Keep in mind, this is for nucleus fucking overload. My program, the term that I coined, the term that I own the copyright to, right? I can't stand it when people just decide to pick some random ass high frequency program and call it nucleus overload and mislead everybody. If you're going to go by the term that I coined, then you better use my goddamn criteria, right? Because nucleus overload is specific. There are many high frequency training programs out there. Nucleus overload has one specific goal. It has a specific set structure, rep scheme, exercise selection, recovery protocol. Everything is specific, and it has a specific goal, which is to increase the shit out of your myonuclei, which will obviously lead to a more sensitive muscle, a muscle that is more sensitive to training, because it will have more capillaries, again, more nuclei, more satellite cells, more androgen receptors, you name it, right? That's the goal of nucleus overload, and that's why I called it nucleus overload, because you're trying to increase the amount of nuclei. But anyway, let's get started. Using weights that are too light, again, very bad. Right? I see people doing nucleus overload and they're using, the most bitch weights imaginable. And I'm like, guys, how are you going to stimulate satellite cell activation, myonuclei donation, mRNA translation, DNA transcription with something that is so light? There's no effort, right? You're not recruiting. If you're using weights that are too light, you are not recruiting your high threshold motor units, which is why I say no more than 30 reps. Because if you have to do 50, 60, 80 reps in one set, then chances are you're going to stop before you even recruit the high threshold motor units, right? Even if you use the Hindman size principle, right? You're probably going to stop because the burn is just unbearable, right? Or you just be wasting your time and doing cardio. The weight has to be challenging enough, not so challenging that you're fucking up your joints and overtaxing your central nervous system, but at the same time, not so light that you're just fucking jerking off and wasting your time, which is why I say 15 to 20, maybe 30 reps, right? Stay in that sweet spot between 15 and 30. Depending on the exercise, of course. RPE obviously has to be high. You want high effort. That's the beauty of high reps. High reps work for hypertrophy if the effort is high, if you come close to failure. So that's mistake number one. Very bad. You're wasting your time if you're using weights that are too light. Next, the opposite. Using weights that are too heavy. Again, very fucking bad. Because the goal of nucleus overload is to, again, stimulate the muscle, stimulate muscle protein synthesis without increasing muscle damage too much. You're trying to limit muscle damage while increasing myofibrillar protein synthesis, which is why all the parameters that I have around nucleus overload are made to optimize recovery, which is why it blows my mind when people strawman nucleus overload and say, oh, that's too much, that's going to hurt recovery. That's the whole point of the parameters, is to enhance your recovery so that you can keep on doing this without digging yourself into a hole. So if you're using a weight that's way too heavy, your joints are going to suffer. Because remember, it takes longer for joints to recover than it takes actual muscle. So your joints are going to suffer. You're going to fry your central nervous system, right? Because the muscle fatigue you get from doing high reps is not the same one that you get from doing taxing exercises. From high reps, the fatigue you get is mostly due to calcium and stuff like that, calcium ions being leaked into the channels. Whereas from heavy weights, you are fucking yourself up in so many ways. So make sure the weight is not too heavy. That defeats the whole purpose. Next, doing way too many sets. Again, I'm going to put that at bad. Nucleus overload should be done in less than 5 minutes, guys. I've been saying this since day one. Less than 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, right? If you want to use time on attention, if you want to actually use a clock, because some exercises you can count reps, like farmer walks, for instance, right? So if you want to use time, the whole thing should take less than 5 minutes. If you're using straight sets, drop sets, blood flow restriction, whatever, the whole thing should not take more than 5 minutes. Why, Megan? Once again, to maximize protein synthesis without increasing muscle damage. Recovery is key. If it's taking you 10, 20, 15 minutes to do nucleus overload, then you're wasting your goddamn time, because eventually you're going to accumulate way too much muscle damage. And it's going to take you way longer to recover. So you won't be able to come back and train frequently, right? So no more than 5 sets. 3 to 5 sets is the sweet spot, right? But after 5, take a break, which is also why I say 5 minutes, right? Shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. Anyway, next, not sleeping enough, extremely bad. I can't tell you how many people are like, hey, I'm doing nucleus overload, and I'm like, first question I ask them is always, wait, how many hours of sleep do you get per day? Oh, I sleep about 5 hours. What? 5 hours of sleep? 6 hours of sleep? And you doing nucleus overload on top of your training program? Are you out of your mind, guys? You are upregulating cortisol like a motherfucker, which obviously is going to upregulate myostatin and actually hurt your gains instead of improve your gains. Again, it's all about recovery. If your sleep is trash, don't even try to do any of my programs, whether it's Nucleus Overload or HSP training. The higher weekly volume goes up, the higher recovery management has to go up to compensate, right? The gains that come from Nucleus Overload and HSP training and full body workouts come with a heavy price. And that price is recovery management. If you cannot increase your recovery management, do not do any of my programs. Next, another bad thing that people do is not doing the mTOR reset. Very bad. I can't tell you how many people do Nucleus Overload, and I'm like, all right, when is your mTOR reset? When was the last time you took a break from the gym? Completely, keep in mind, this is mTOR reset, right? I coined that because I wanted to separate that from deloading, right? It's not deloading, it's detraining, right? If you're still going to the gym doing an mTOR reset, or you're still doing high intensity shit like HIIT or anaerobic work, you're not doing an mTOR reset, right? You need to give your body time, not just to recover from the increased load, not just to recover from the increased frequency and crazy high weekly volume, but your body needs time to donate the actual nuclei, increase the capillary network, methylate certain genes, and reset your mTOR and your androgen receptors. That's why mTOR reset is so crucial. You have to take a break. Go hang out with your friends. Go hang out with your girls. Go clap cheeks. Go watch TV. Go take a break from the gym, guys. Let the muscle resensitize to training. Else you're going to end up shooting yourself in the foot and actually start going backwards in terms of progress. Next, having shit nutrition while doing Nucleus Overload. Extremely bad. Guys, not only you're not going to gain anything, you're not going to gain any muscle, you're barely going to gain any nuclei or satellite cells, but you might even lose everything, right? Nutrition is king. If you've been a subscriber of mine for years, you know I beat a dead horse over that, right? If your nutrition is shit, which all ties back into recovery management, see how it's always about recovery, right? If your nutrition is shit, you're not getting enough micronutrients, enough macronutrients, or at least enough calories to maintain elevated myofibrillar protein synthesis, you're wasting your time. Building muscle is expensive, caloric-wise. Upregulating the genes that are linked to myogenesis is expensive. Your body needs a ton of ATP and a ton of nutrients to make that happen. So don't do Nucleus Overload if your nutrition is trash. Next, same thing. Not being properly hydrated while doing Nucleus Overload. Extremely bad, right? Watch my video on water because I really want to keep this video short. But if you're not fully hydrated while doing Nucleus Overload, once again, what are you doing? You're defeating the whole purpose, and it's going to be extremely hard for you to even get a pump, which is coming up soon, right? But again, there's a million other reasons why you got to be fully hydrated when doing this shit. Watch the video that I have with water. Next, I want to put that not that bad. Obsessing about the everyday part. I'm going to put that not that bad, right? Because everyone obsesses about the everyday part, right? Even though I say time and time again, the minimum frequency for Nucleus Overload should be 3 times a week. That's the bare minimum, all the way up to 7 times a week, right? So 3 days a week, all the way up to obviously 7 days a week, which is the maximum, right? So the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle. As low as, if you're doing less than 3 times a week, that's not Nucleus Overload. Fuck that, right? The bare minimum is 3 days a week. The maximum is 7 days a week. So if you're doing 4 times, I mean 4 days a week, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, that's fine. I have some people obsessing about the 7-day part. What literally messaged me, oh my god, I missed 1 day of Nucleus Overload. What's gonna happen? Am I gonna lose my gains? I'm like, dude, like you have to understand how the human body works. Missing 1 day is not gonna just put a halt to the adaptation process, right? To the donation of myonuclei or the upregulation of the satellite cells, right? That's fine. In fact, if you slept bad, ate like shit, didn't drink enough water, then yeah, you might want to take 1 or 2 days to get back into that optimal state. So obsessing about the everyday thing is bad, but not that bad, right? Next, using taxing exercises. Bad, right? Stop using taxing movements for Nucleus Overload. Again, the recommendation, the prescription has always been safe, non-damaging exercises, such as cable movements, machines, body weight for something like push-ups or dumbbells, things that are not too damaging. Because remember, once again, there are 2 ways to increase satellite cell activation. One is through muscle damage. The other one is through high frequency, high weekly volume pump work, right? Nucleus Overload utilizes the latter. The reason I don't recommend doing too much damage is because it's going to take too long to recover. It's going to take you way too long to come back and hit that muscle again. Whereas with pump work, which the studies have backed up everything I've been saying all this time, right? You can upregulate stellar cell activation and myonuclear donation even more than somebody who's doing damaging exercise. And the scientists, the researchers were surprised because prior to that, everyone thought, oh, you have to do muscle damage to activate satellite cells. And now they found out, especially with blood flow restriction, which is my favorite way of doing nucleus overload, right? In addition to drop sets and stuff like that, they found out that you're getting more satellite cell activation, more myonuclear donation with the least amount of muscle damage we've seen in the literature. So stop thinking that you have to use these taxing, super damaging movements, right? That has been debunked so long ago. And last but not least, not focusing on getting a pump. Again, very bad. Don't just go through the motions and do your sets and reps and then walk out, right? No, focus on the goal. You're trying to maximize the shit out of the pump. And once again, I'm not talking about a little bitch pump where you grab a 10-pound number, oh, look, I feel blood. No, a skin stretching pump. You should feel your arm ready to explode, pushing your shirt apart, right? You want to maximize cell swelling as much as possible. Flood that muscle with blood. And which is why I love blood flow restriction training so much, because nothing would give you a pump like blood flow restriction training, right? The only thing that comes close is what I was doing before, which is drop set and obviously supersets and rest pause and things like that, which again you could use because the goal is to get a pump. I don't care how you get that pump, right? But you want to maximize the pump. If you just go to the gym or do it at home and you're not getting a sick pump, all right, then you're not doing nucleus overload. You're doing some random high frequency bullshit. And if you want to know why the pump is so important, watch the whole video that I did on it and study the literature on how important the pump is for hypertrophy, right? It accounts for 20 to 35% of the variance in muscle growth, which is huge in this domain. But anyway, guys, that's it. Those are the top 10 most common mistakes that I see people do on nucleus overload. Avoid them at all costs. All right, don't forget to join the Reddit. See you in the comment section. Alright guys, don't forget to like or share the video, subscribe and hit the bell, and buy my HSP Nucleus Overload training program. It's the ultimate program for maximum muscle growth. It includes full body workout splits, bro splits, push-pull, home workouts, you name it. Also comes with a complete guide for macros, nutrition, fat loss, muscle growth, hormones, including a meal plan. It's pretty much all my 16 years of experience condensed into one fucking book. You're also going to get free copies of any future edition. So visit team3dalpha.com and you can use the 40% off coupon code Nucleus Overload. Or you could just buy the shit at full price. Alright guys, I'm out of here.